What's up, Internet Land? This is Zachimus Prime, aka Zachimus Prime, here with another video review. Today we're going to be reviewing the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Gambit. This is Gambit from X-Men, and he's everyone's favorite Frenchman, except for maybe Jean-Luc Picard, who's the most British Frenchman of all time. But, so the Amazing Yamaguchi subline of the Revoltech figures is basically some dude has got his work really cut out for him, some guy named Yamaguchi. And he's a sculptor, and he does all these figures. And then Kyoto just like releases them as action figures and whatnot. And so, but yeah, so it's an interesting figure. It's an interesting sculpt. I actually haven't bought a Revoltech figure in almost 10 years. This one actually isn't mine either. I'm borrowing this again from my friend Matt. But I haven't. I had a few Revoltech figures back in the day, and then I kind of got out of them because I personally figured that for character figures, places like Figma and SH Figure Arts made a better one, and for robots and whatnot, I discovered the Robot Damashi line. So I've never been a big fan of click joints, and at least back in the day, that was like the whole point of Revoltech, was all like click joints and whatnot. So, but this is really interesting, kind of surprising to just kind of get this dropped on my lap and be like, hey, do you review this? And I was like, okay, sure. So what's interesting about this is that so back last time I was in Revoltech, there was two kinds of joints. They had a large click joint and they had a small click joint, and those also came in the like double joint varieties. But that was basically it. Now there's like a whole bunch of different types of connections and joints and whatnot on this, and some of them click and some of them don't, and just a lot of moving parts. And I think that's an interest. I'm going to get into the moving parts later. First, I'm going to talk about the accessories. So for accessories, he comes with a pair of course, his fists that I've got on the figure right now. He's got a pair of open hands like so, for like grabbing them titties. Probably rogues, to be honest. Anyhow, he comes with a pair of like kind of half open hands, and he comes with a pair of more closed holding hands. He comes with a couple of these spreads of cards, energy cards, because of course that's what he likes to do, is take cards and throw them. These are basically the same sculpt, but opposite of each other. And he comes with a pair of these energy cards that are flaming. That's the Ace of Spades and the Ace of Diamonds. They are basically opposite molds. He comes with an alternate face. He comes with a stick, a big stick. He comes with a little tool. This is for moving his eyes about. I'll show you that in a little bit. He comes with, this is an attachment for the stand that's also included. And also in that same little baggie, oh dang, where did I put it? Oh, I put it over here. In that same little baggie, there are a couple of these double, and I'm not sure if these are meant to be replacements, which would make me nervous, because then that would mean that there's things that wear out, or if they're supposed to be some sort of stand attachment, because it came in the same bag that all of the stand parts came in. except that I don't really see any way of attaching it onto the stand. These are the same color and size as these ones in his shoulder, which makes me wonder if whether or not those are prone to wearing out, which does not sound like a fun idea. But in any case, if they are prone to wearing out, it's got replacements, and if not, I don't know. The like massive amount of instructions don't say anything about it, so yeah, so there he is. So one of the things that that I've always thought was interesting about Revoltech figures is that they are, and this guy, I've played with him a bit, and he doesn't actually change my opinion on that at all. It's not a play figure, it's a display figure, but it's like a really, really versatile display figure because, of course, it's fully posable and whatnot. It's just, it doesn't have, like, I mean, it doesn't have the sort of, you know, I mean, you can get good poses out of it. It just takes so long that you're not going to be playing with it. You're just, you know, you got to take it down and fidget with it. And, you know, if you have a shelf full of Revoltech figures, you know, changing the poses on them all is going to be a day-long, you know, endeavor. They don't really look normal when they're just standing there, but they look really good when they're in some sort of a dynamic, actiony pose. But let's get into the articulation on this guy, because there is an awful lot. So he's got his head. Let me take his face off for a bit. Double check that I know what I'm talking about. So his head has got, like, way up here on the top of his head, there's like a ball joint of some sort. It's interesting that his head goes all the way up into his forehead. That's where the joint is connected. So there's like a ball joint way up at the top, which is nice because last time I had Revoltech figures, they were all those click joints, which have got a bend in the middle and then the bars on either end, so it'll rotate. So, like, if you wanted to go like this, it would click up and down like that. But if you wanted to turn it like that, you had to, like, get that internal click joint to rotate around somehow. So he's got his head itself, and then he's got this little, this is the perfect way to display it, this little plastic part back behind here, and that fills in the gaps behind his neck so that, you know, when you pull his head forward, there's like stuff in there to fill up that space, and when you push it, you know, there's stuff in there to fill up that space. He's got another joint down at the base of his neck, so he's got some giggity. Then below that base joint, there's this little, that's where this little plastic piece attaches onto, and that comes out over this. So this, like, collar of his trench coat moves with his neck. He's got an upper chest joint that's on a ball joint. I can feel that that's definitely a ball joint. And then he's got a lower one that's also a ball joint that you can kind of look through the gap. Look through the gap in his leg area and see how that works out. So he's got quite a bit of bend. There he is, bending all the way forward, and he doesn't really bend back so much. Well, I mean, since this is more of a neutral pose, like, he does bend a little bit back, but just kind of looks like he's just holding his chest kind of proud, like, hey, well, guess where I am? I'm Gambit, mon'amie. He's got his legs. I think this is a ball joint in here. I haven't pulled it off, but I'm pretty certain that's a ball joint in there. So his leg feels like it's on a ball joint. So it'll go that far forward. And if we get this out of the way, basically not back at all. He has a cut right here up the upper thigh. It feels a bit feels a bit stiff. This is one of the like Kyoto's like typical like posability cuts. Then he's got, this is a typical, oh hello. This is a typical Revoltech joint right here. This is actually, yeah. The way the sculpt of his leg and calf go, that gives them quite a bit of posability on that single joint there. And then there's like a little, it's not a ball joint, but it's not a click joint either. It's like a tiny Revoltech joint with no clicks in it that holds this little knee part on. There is a joint, feels mostly rotational. Actually, I just took it off. It's looks like that's the standard Revoltech joint in here. That holds the bottom of his leg on. I don't know that you're really going to get, I guess if you pull on it just right, you can get maybe one click of motion out of that. I'm not sure. Most people I know don't have a joint mid-calf. But if that's what you really need, I guess, you know, if you want to have, like if you're flexing his leg and you've got just a little bit more flex out of it, because of course this is based off of his comic appearance in comics. You know, they kind of draw it however looks best to the eye or whatnot. His ankle is surprisingly not a click joint, but it is a standard Revoltech joint, which means it's sitting here and it's got, let me just yank this out for a second. It's got your standard Revoltech, so it's the joint in the middle plus the little post sticking out the ends to attach to whatever it's onto. So you're going to have some twist on that. You're going to have the bend on it. And then the other end, the other post of that is going to stick straight out into this foot. So that'll give you some rotation on his foot. Then he's got a little toe joint here. His other arm fell off. That's actually kind of an interesting thing I want to get into. It's got a ball joint that hooks right into, you can kind of see like the inner workings of his neck in there. But he's got an inner ball joint that attaches like right below like where his armpit would be. And the coat is all on that. So it's got, you know, a little bit of built-in motion around this joint. You know, almost like a little bit of butterfly or like a little bit of rotation or whatnot. His shoulder is this double Revoltech joint design. So it'll go, geez, just about anywhere. It'll move forwards, and it'll move back, and it'll move out like all the way. This like little shoulder part on here is actually, it's a separate piece that's attached onto, just with a molded in ball joint attached onto the actual back of his arm. Like that. He's got a single elbow joint here with a strong degree of bend. It's interesting here as I was playing with it. He's got the single non-clicking Revoltech joint here. This end is connected via a post. You can feel that when you bend this side to side like a bicep swivel. This end is attached via a ball joint. Oops. And that's a design I hadn't seen before. He's got this extra little piece of material in here on the end of his sleeve. That'll help keep his hand covered up. I've swapped out his hand several times, and not once has it wanted to pull this connection out from the wrist end. It only ever pulls it out from the hand, which is nice, because when you're pulling it off, the last thing you want is for, you know, the little this little part to come with it. That just makes it more frustrating. So I'm going to swap it out for this hand here. Oh, by the way, his other arm is basically the same. And then you've got this coat back here has got a Revoltech joint. This is a clicking Revoltech joint that keeps the back end of the coat on. And so it's got the little posts back here, and it'll rotate on them. And then you can also bend it on this, though I haven't found that to be a very necessary action. Like, you can get pretty much all the posability you need out of these little coattails by twisting it out on either one of those posts. Oh, and his face just fell off again. One thing, though, to keep in mind is that these coattails are pretty heavy. And when you move them around, you're going to be changing the center of gravity of this figure quite a bit. And so you can get them freestanding in some poses, but if you want a good solid pose, you pretty much have got to use the stand. And the stand attaches right into his butthole right here. Just via, I mean, we've all seen this stuff before, how stands work. Look, now he's flying. And his arm fell off. One of the things that has been kind of bugging me about when I've been messing with this figure is that, like in this waist section here, so there's this little like pant section that goes over the internal joints, and like if you pull this out far enough that you're starting to get a gap here, you know, because the sculpt of the torso has come out from underneath the sculpt of the waist area. Getting it back in sometimes is a little bit of a issue, and then getting the sculpt of the leg to go under. Oops, that just all came off. Hey, look at the ball joint. Getting the sculpt of the leg to go under that area also can be sometimes a little bit of a hassle. Anyhow, let me put his arm back on, and we'll get into some of the accessories and how they work. So if you put up his holding hand like this, he can hold his staff. We'll just slide him like that. There's no tabs or slots or anything like that. It just holds it via friction. It holds it pretty well. You can also use this hand for holding either of these cards. These cards are actually really cool. So they're molded in clear plastic. There's no stickers or anything like that. That's all tampo printing or like mask printing. But like they airbrush some pink onto that, so it's got that like energy look. And then they print the card on the inside of this, and then the back of the card on top of that. Anyhow, so you can slide this into his hand just like that, and it looks like he's holding that card just like that. And you can put it forwards or backwards. There's this so his eyes move around. Let's see if I can get this close enough. I know that my camera doesn't really like close-up, so I'll zoom instead. Hopefully this stays sharp. So you've got this little tool right here, and on the back, so his eyes are actually these little like balls, and they've got holes in them. And I know that his eye holes are black, so it's not really going to show up well on this camera if it was a figure with white eyes. So you stick this little peg into the hole in the back of his eyeball, and then you move that sucker around. So there he's looking way off to the side. And you can just rotate that around. So he can be like cross-eyed, or in this case, have him looking off to one side. too far. Now I feel like this other one is not quite. There we go. Put this back in. Unzoom. And on this figure in particular, it feels like it's really kind of a subtle effect. Like it doesn't really change a lot. He also has, if you take this off, I'm going to put on this open palm option here. So I'm going to put on the right one for his hand. Yeah. And then he's got these little cards here, and these are specifically fitted for left and right hands. You take this and you just plug that into there. And like a chump, I think I grabbed the wrong hand. Yeah, that works better. You can see how he's got like the cards go in between the fingers. And that's actually really cool because, of course, you can use the open hand for, you know, all sorts of other things as well. You don't have to just use it for this. And then pulling out his face is different. I mean, I've showed you this a bunch of times already in this. You just get the new one, plug it in. The new one also, the other alternate face also has the eyeball stuff in it as well. So you can move around where specifically he's looking to, again, a subtle degree. But yeah, it's kind of a fun figure. I mean, I don't know if SH Figure Arts or Figma make these Marvel X-Men figures. I think it's just mostly going to be this Revoltech stuff. And I don't mind Revoltech. I don't hate it or anything like that. It's not personally my favorite. And I think that this one hasn't really done a lot to convince me. But it sure does make for a fantastic looking, you know, display. And that's definitely a big thing for a lot of people, is that they like having figures just to display it. And you know, it's gonna make a good display. And then you can change it up and display it in a different way and display it a different way. It's like an unlimited amount of display figures of a character that you like enough to buy, you know? So that's one of the good things about it. But anyhow, that's pretty much it for this review of this figure. This has been the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Gambit, and thanks everybody for watching. You're all awesome, and be good to each other. See ya.